las cosas porque sean difíciles. Las cosas son difíciles porque nos da miedo hacerlas.
Cuando nací yo ya se había repartido el miedo, entonces no lo conozco.
Para mí no es el técnico, son los jugadores. 70% son los jugadores.
Vamos, Julio, hazlo por tu familia. Vamos, Julio. Todavía podemos noquearlo. Me decía que lo hiciéramos por todo, por México, por mis hijos, por todo. Y me le acabo viendo y le digo, ¿por mí qué? Le digo.
Alright, pues bienvenidos todos a otro episodio más de Toque de Gol. Hoy tenemos un invitadazo como siempre. Vamos a hablar un poco de lo que pasó ayer y un poco de su historia también. Eric, ¿cómo estás?
Oye, muy bien y qué buen intro, me encantó.
It's alright, but glad you liked it. Pues I know we have a lot to cover, but a mí me gusta siempre empezar desde el principio with all my guests. So if you want to say a little bit, ¿dónde nace ese amor por, bueno, I'm assuming that you're a sports fanatic overall. Obviously soccer is probably the most one that you're into, or maybe another one. So, ¿dónde nace ese amor por el deporte?
Mira, cuando yo estaba chico, mi papá, la verdad, tenía siempre en la tele, si era domingo, pues los juegos de la NFL, si era también temporada de básquetbol, porque igual en NBC en ese entonces antes de NBC era CBS, los juegos estaban también sábados o domingos, siempre había deportes en la casa y cuando yo estaba chico también no estaban los juegos de los Padres de San Diego en cable, los daban en over-the-air TV, ¿sabes? Televisión abierta. Entonces, digamos, siempre que yo estaba en compañía de mi papá, había deportes en la tele. O estaba él hablando de deportes, leyendo el periódico, checando el tema de los deportes. Entonces, mi vida desde muy chiquito era estar al pendiente de lo que estaba pasando en la NBA, en la NFL, en Major League Baseball. Te darás cuenta que no estoy hablando de fútbol porque a mi papá en realidad no le gusta el fútbol.
Ok, eso es muy interesante, yeah.
Sí, entonces, yo la verdad me enteré de la existencia del fútbol, porque te digo, en mi casa no existía, hasta el Mundial del 94. Yo tenía 7 años. Entonces, a lo largo de ese verano, que estaban los partidos en la televisión, yo empecé a ver esta increíble pasión, porque obviamente lo que tú puedas ver en la televisión, hay aficiones muy buenas para cada deporte. Si estaba yo viendo los Chicago Bulls en la tele, pues era increíble el ambiente del estadio. Si estaban ellos en casa, en la NFL ni se diga. De hecho, mi papá me llevó a juegos de los Chargers cuando estaban en San Diego de niño. Y a mí me llamaba mucho la atención esa pasión y esa intensidad que había por parte de la gente por los deportes. Cuando yo vi el Mundial del 94, en los estadios de Estados Unidos, la pasión que existía por la selección de México, dije, wow, esto es increíble. Y aparte yo no entendía cómo podía haber, porque había visto las Olimpiadas, ¿verdad? Había visto The Dream Team, Barcelona 92, todo este tipo de cosas, pero no me entraba en la cabeza esa idea de que, mira, este equipo está representando a todo un país, y no nada más cualquier país, sino México, ¿verdad? Porque todo lo que te estoy mencionando hasta ahorita eran deportes, entre comillas, americanos, yeah, ¿verdad? No había mucho, there wasn't a lot of representation. Si estaba yo viendo juegos de la NBA o de béisbol o de la NFL en ese entonces. Entonces, de repente yo veo gente que tiene los mismos apellidos o apellidos parecidos a los míos, que hablan el mismo idioma, que están jugando un deporte al nivel más alto y que tienen un estadio de gente apoyándolos. Fue increíble, y ahí es donde nace mi amor por el fútbol. Y luego vienen otras cosas, porque yo sí tengo familiares que les encanta el fútbol, y ahí empezó todo.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, and you probably know more about this, because I was just 1 year old when that World Cup happened. The World Cup in '94 has the record of most attendance,
right?
In World Cups.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
single game. I mean, I don't think it's full tournament now, porque eran 24 equipos. Ese fue el último mundial con 24 equipos. So ahora ya hay más partidos. Yeah. So, I mean, I got to think that maybe 2002, Corea-Japón, o like even Sudáfrica 2010 or Brasil 2014, those probably have the overall attendance record, pero single game todavía cualquier partido que haya sido en el Rose Bowl o creo que en el Silverdome de Detroit, esos son los que están hasta arriba.
Okay. So en tu casa se veía NFL, se veía basketball. Cuando te enamoraste del fútbol, aparte de la selección, ¿tenías un equipo en el fútbol mexicano o it was just overall, it was just the whole sport?
It was the whole sport. O sea, no existían los Xolos, no existía MLS, entonces no había un equipo de San Diego, todavía no hay un equipo de San Diego al que yo podía apoyar. O sea, yo de niño siempre me identificaba mucho porque excluía un deporte muy importante también, que es el box. A mi papá le encanta el box y a mí también, y ese era el único deporte en donde, porque él veía de todo, o sea, veíamos Mike Tyson, Lennox Lewis, Evander Holyfield, cuando los heavyweights de esa división eran increíbles, pero también obviamente Julio César Chávez, la Chiquita González, Macho Camacho, muchos latinos que peleaban en esa época. Me acuerdo la primera pelea que vi en vivo con mi papá y que también fue una situación súper importante para mí por la intensidad, fue la de Chávez contra Meldrick Taylor, ¿verdad? Yo estaba muy chiquito y aún así me acuerdo enterito de esa pelea porque pues fue una experiencia como nunca. Pero en el fútbol yo no tenía equipo porque no había manera de identificarme con, o sea, mira, los que crecimos en la frontera o los que crecimos in the States, o sea, te identificabas con el equipo de tu papá o de tu mamá o de tus abuelos, de tu familia. Yo te digo, yo no tenía eso, porque mi familia no, o sea, sí tenía yo familiares aficionados al fútbol, pero mi papá no tenía ningún equipo. Entonces yo veía los partidos por pura curiosidad y obviamente con la selección sí era otra experiencia, pero digamos que lo primero que me pasó a mí a nivel, club level, domestic leagues or whatever, fue que un tío mío tenía grabados muchos VHS tapes de los 80s de Diego Maradona en el Napoli. Entonces, él sacaba, y de Hugo Sánchez en el Real Madrid, pero mi tío estaba obsesionado con Maradona. Entonces, me enseñaba los partidos del Napoli o los highlight reels que tenía él de programas que él había grabado. Algunos eran programas de Televisa, otros eran programas, I don't know, like, where he got those actually. Yo creo que con el satellite dish, que te agarrabas canales de todo el mundo.
Lados. Yeah.
Sí, porque like those tapes, half of those tapes were in Italian, right? Entonces, veíamos esos clips y yo decía, wow, o sea, es mucho, o sea, a él le da risa ahora contarlo porque yo le dije, oye, pero es mucho mejor que los mexicanos. O sea, just, bobbing and weaving around the field. Y entonces yo el primer equipo que apoyé, digamos, aunque no lo tenía cerca, aunque ni siquiera había manera de verlo en la televisión, en el Napoli, es el único equipo europeo que a mí todavía me gusta. Mi tío no le iba al Real Madrid, de hecho le va al Barcelona, pero como Hugo Sánchez pues estaba en el Real Madrid, no había de otra. Entonces yo tampoco yo no le agarré ni amor ni odio al Real Madrid ni al Barcelona, porque pues digo, como mexicano, we can talk about Hugo Sánchez, we can talk about Rafa Márquez being on either side of that rivalry, and I don't understand. Like, if you grew up with one of those teams, then yeah, that's fine.
That's fine, yeah.
Pero no, yo como mexicano, la verdad, no prefiero. Yo le voy al que tenga un jugador mexicano. Es el equipo que yo apoyo. Y en la Liga MX llegó una afición por el América de niño, por un vecino que yo tenía. Yeah. Pero ya fue después.
Bueno, el América que este canal es un poco americanista, but yeah, no, it's a good thing that you say that about Barcelona y Real Madrid, because también yo soy igual, o sea, no tengo equipo, la verdad, en Europa. Soy un aficionado de fútbol, ¿no? It's you just want to have a good game, watch a good game, and regardless of who's playing, right? Entonces, ¿cuándo es que te das cuenta que quieres hacer una career de los deportes?
Yeah, I've told the story a few times, pero everybody thinks it's made up y te lo juro que no es así. I was talking about satellite dishes, those old school parabólicas, those big ass satellite dishes that they had in the 80s and the 90s. So my dad got one of those por ahí del 94, 95, por ahí. Y era la época en donde ya cobraban ciertos canales, pero todavía tú podías ver muchos canales gratis, simplemente por tener el satellite dish. Entonces, era increíble porque we never had cable at my house early on in my childhood. We obviously got it later, but era o veías la televisión con antena over the air, and we always had San Diego channels and Tijuana channels. So anybody who grows up on the border will tell you that that was pretty cool growing up if you had the chance to watch TV in Spanish and in English. Y de repente mi papá se emocionó mucho porque entre el paquete de canales que contrató tenía ESPN y tenía ESPN 2. Y un día yo entré al cuarto y se estaba acabando un juego de béisbol. Y I remember I got mad at my dad. Le dije, oye, ¿por qué? Because I was outside playing. ¿Por qué no me dijiste que estaba el juego de béisbol?
To come inside and watch it, yeah.
Y él estaba tranquilo, entonces me dice, no te preocupes, ahorita se acaba uno y empieza otro. Y le dije, ok, well, that's weird. O sea, ¿dónde lo estás viendo? ¿O qué? Y me dice, se llama ESPN, es un canal de deportes 24 horas al día. Pues, a mí, I didn't believe him. Like, ¿cómo? What? Un canal de deportes 24 horas, o sea, después del juego de béisbol, ¿qué va a haber? Y me dice, no, pues probablemente Sports Center, es las noticias, pero puro deporte. And I literally asked him to pull up the little
guide.
I didn't. Yeah, we didn't have I don't think there was an on-screen channel guide back then. So we probably had the TV guide, but for satellite dishes, I remember it was called Orbit. Entonces le dije, saca el Orbit y enséñame dónde está la guía de programación de ESPN. Me enseñó y me dijo, mira, después de esto y esto y esto y esto y esto y esto. Man, I didn't want to turn off the TV after that. Entonces, sometime after that, le dije yo a mi papá, le dije, oye, ¿sabes qué? O sea, ¿puedes trabajar en ESPN? Y me dijo, sí, claro, hay gente que trabaja en ESPN. Y le dije, yo algún día voy a trabajar en ESPN. And that was it. That's how I got.
You set it in your mind.
Hooked onto sports media and sort of unconsciously set off this road para algún día llegar a donde estoy y ojalá más cosas, ¿no?
Which that's a perfect. How you said it is perfect. You put it in your mind. You set it in your mind. You saw yourself there, and you put yourself there, and that's where you're at. Now, once you said it, what were the steps that you took to get there?
Well, you got to go to school. Unless you're a former pro athlete, you do it that way.
You get it easy.
Man, I mean, basketball is honestly my best game, and I'm literally 5'11", so there's no way I was gonna make it not even to Division I ball, let alone the NBA. Así que
the reason I asked because I'm pretty sure that you had, or I don't know if you did, you probably had a difficult time, or somewhere down the road sometimes comes hard times, and if sometimes you were like, man, I don't know if it's worth it, or you were just set and.
Pues sí, obviamente hubieron varias ocasiones en las que yo sentía que, there were several times over the course of my life where I thought this was not going to happen. I mean, it's really hard to think about joining a company as, when you're on the outside looking in, and I mean the industry, not just ESPN, it seems like a monolith. There's no way that I can sort of place myself on TV with these people or on the radio with these people that I've, in my mind are famous because I don't know them. And in my mind, they're celebrities. It's kind of like the same experience that an aspiring actor might have to sort of imagining themselves in Hollywood movies. O si eres cantante, de repente dices, bueno, pues yo quiero que mis canciones estén en la radio, yo quiero de verdad ser platinum selling artist, y te imaginas dando un concierto para todo el mundo, pero hasta que no te pones a trabajar o hasta que no logras un tipo de contacto, eso se ve muy lejano. Así que yo estudié cine, yo ni siquiera estudié journalism, porque en ese momento de mi vida yo también tenía la intención. O sea, yo siempre, I've always been a storyteller, and I've always wanted to sort of explore ways to enhance my creativity. Going to school in San Diego, being, 2 hours down the road on the 5 from LA and Hollywood, suena muy loco, pero it honestly seemed like an easier road or like a safer bet to try and break into that industry. And man, I mean, I have plenty of classmates who are working in the industry, and I'm super proud of them. And I don't think any of them, like back then, thought that I would end up at ESPN. But when I graduated, I was already working for Bleacher Report. But Bleacher Report, I don't know if you remember, like, used to be a completely different thing. Era un portal open source en donde cualquiera, como Wikipedia, cualquier persona podía registrarse y escribir artículos. So I'd write those for free. And one day I get a call from a guy named René Leal, and René was running the Goal.com US Latino edition. And he was like, hey, I've read, some of your stuff on Bleacher Report. And I think to that point, I'd only written like 2 or 3 soccer articles. The rest was like NFL, MLB, NBA, whatever. Entonces me preguntó, ¿puedes escribir más de fútbol, o te gusta el fútbol así como para escribir? Entonces le dije que sí.
Without a doubt.
I was in college, obviously, like getting extra cash was priority one, man, right? You're in school, you need to get that money. So that's where I started with Goal.com, and it just kind of built from there.
Yeah. And how old were you there?
When I started with Goal.com, I was probably 22. Yeah, 2009, so 22.
2009. Yeah, un buen tiempo. And then from there, how long did it take you to get to where you wanted to be, which is ESPN?
Right. So when I was at Goal.com for 5 years, nearly 5 years. I'd say a little less than that. But I was in San Diego, I was in Tijuana, I was still kind of living that border life, dual national life. Y un día me dijeron, ¿sabes qué? Queremos abrir Goal México.
Okay.
Y tú ya estás trabajando para, the US edition. I was writing in both languages. I was covering the Mexican national team. I was covering the US men's national team. I was covering MLS games. I was covering, friendlies from with Liga MX teams and European teams that would make stops in Southern California. And, Xolos was barely kind of breaking into the first division back then. So I was doing a little bit of that as well. So, they said, you know what, we thought about it, and you're like the guy we want running that edition. So I was 25 then. I was 2012. Y yo nunca había ido a la Ciudad de México. Nunca. Entonces que te digan, vete a vivir a una de las ciudades más grandes del mundo, solo, deja tu casa, deja tu familia. It was crazy.
Excited and nervous at the same time, no?
Yeah, it was absolutely both of those emotions, and other emotions definitely kicked in. So, I said yes. I didn't really know what I was getting into, but I said yes, and I made it down, I think, like July or August of 2012, and that's where I've been. So 10 years now, almost. I've been down here. When I arrived in Mexico City, I was working for Goal.com, and then the crazy thing about being in Mexico City is that it's an environment like very much akin to being in LA, because, everybody's there. So when I would go to LA, it would be super exciting for me to sort of walk into these events and see people from ESPN, Fox Sports, Televisa, TV Azteca, you know, you name it, they were there. And a lot of those guys were living in LA or in the area. Llegas a la Ciudad de México y obviamente es lo mismo.
They're all there, yeah.
ESPN, Fox Sports, Televisa, TV Azteca y lo que te imagines. Entonces, empecé a hacer contactos, empecé a platicar con gente en México, empezaron a conocerme un poquito más y de repente, o sea, Goal.com was a great job for me because it was like a sandbox, man. I could experiment, I could do a lot of things and grow into the job. You know, I obviously messed up a bunch of times. I had no experience like running a website. I was 25 and I studied journalism, so I had no clue what I was doing at first. But what ended up happening was it wasn't a job back then where you had to devote 100% of your time and resources. They didn't have an exclusivity deal with me. Entonces un día me hablan de ESPN Deportes y me dicen, hoy estamos empezando estos blogs. Estos blogs, alguien va a cubrir a Chivas, alguien va a cubrir a la América y así vamos a empezar. Sí. Y necesitamos acreditar gente, pero es gente que necesita escribir en inglés y en español. Y no, por eso no podemos quizás pedirle a alguien de ESPN México que lo haga, ¿verdad? So I was the Club America guy and Tom Marshall was the Chivas guy. So that's how we got started with ESPN, but that was like completely freelance. You know, iba a los partidos cada 15 días, escribía blogs, iba a los entrenamientos, así empecé también a conocer muchos reporteros que cubrían la Fuente del América. Y, and, you know, that's how I got to go to Estadio Azteca for national team games at first. Cuando todo esto empieza a suceder, me vienen a buscar de Fox Sports, one of the Fox Deportes. And, you know, you can't work for ESPN and Fox at the same time, right?
Yep.
So I had to make a choice. And, you know, Fox, they were coming in hard, man. They were making all of these promises and trying to I felt like I had a really nice future laid out as far as what I wanted to do with Fox and you know, with ESPN. At that point, it was just
the job wasn't there for you yet.
Yeah, which was a great job, you know, again, but it wasn't necessarily what I wanted to do. So I went to Fox. I was with Fox for about a couple years. And when they went through this like massive restructuring over there in 2015, and I got laid off, right? So that's when you know, I'd gotten production experience, obviously, from studying film in college. And that's, you know, what I wanted to do in terms of what I still want to do and what I'm still doing in terms of like merging my education with my career, with my job. So I got offered back then, Grupo Imagen, which is like the third TV network in Mexico.
Televisora, yep.
Yeah, that didn't exist. Entonces iban a empezar con el Canal 3, con Grupo Imagen, y no tenían nada, no tenían programas de deportes, apenas estaban armando el noticiero y la revista de Fútbol Total como que ganó o vendió los derechos, más bien compró los derechos de ponerle el nombre de la revista a un programa de televisión, ahí en Imagen. Entonces a mí cuando me contratan, me dicen, nos gustaría que colabores con el programa. Before I was even hired, like that was dead in the water, man. So they switched it up and they were like, we have a website that we want, you know, to sort of bring up and compete with the big boys. We need somebody to run it. Me ofrecieron esa página. Ahí estuve un año también, pero no fue una buena experiencia de trabajo, la verdad.
It didn't take off.
No. Y ya para ese entonces ya me estaban otra vez hablando de ESPN. My old boss, Carlos Caban, who I owe a lot to, me empezó a hablar otra vez. He was like, hey, I heard you're not with Fox anymore. I'm heading down to Mexico City. We should meet and we should discuss this project that, we want to develop in Mexico City. And so we met a couple times. They were super excited about bringing me aboard, but, this was a different job than the blog, the freelance thing that we had before. So ESPN is, in my experience, just a very, very thorough company in the sense that they want to make sure that they're hiring the right dude for the job. I had 23 interviews for that job. And the entire process took like 3 to 4 months. So I was like, by the time you get to the 10th interview, you're either thinking, ¿esta es la buena? O me van a mandar a la fregada.
Yeah.
O sea, ya para qué me hacen hacer esto más veces.
Yeah, and you're thinking, am I good enough for it? Am I not? What's going on, no?
Yeah, man. I mean, era como correr un maratón. Because every time I would go through one of these interviews, I was like, okay, so like I've basically met everybody in the company. They had me interview with folks over at Disney too. I was like, la siguiente entrevista va a ser con Mickey Mouse, because that's like the last. Yeah, that's the last. That's got to be like the final boss, right? Like that's got to be it. And 23rd interview, they were like, okay, aquí está tu oferta y ahí está el contrato. And I've been with ESPN for 5.5 years now. So July of this year will make it 6 years that I've been there, and it's been a great ride.
Antes de preguntarte otra cosa, I want to go back to your first experience with ESPN. Once you were working there, I'm assuming that in your head and you had a conversation with your dad that you were super excited that you were working at what you had told your dad when you were smaller, that's where you wanted to work. Mm-hmm. So that was like one of the best days in your life, right? Because it was a dream come true.
Yeah, desde la primera vez. Yeah, from like the very first time I got a call from somebody at ESPN, who, by the way, was this old boss that I mentioned, Carlos Caban. Like when I got, I don't remember if it was a text or an email. It was just like, hey, I got your number from so-and-so, and this is Carlos Caban from ESPN. I was like, I'm sorry, am I reading this right? ESPN?
Is this a joke?
Yeah. Entonces, te ofrecen el trabajo y lo primero que hice fue decirle a mi papá. My dad is a very, very family-oriented guy. So I think that he was surprised that, when I moved away from that region, I mean, he was thinking pensaba que me iba a ir yo al gabacho, ¿no? A Estados Unidos, a cualquier otra parte del país, LA, Nueva York, I don't know, lo que sea. Y de repente le digo Mexico City y se queda así como que, cabrón, ¿pero por qué o qué? Y de repente cuando le digo, oye, me ofrecieron este trabajo con ESPN, pues obviamente he was super proud, man. I'd like to think he still is. And, every time I go back home, like we'll go eat at whatever restaurant on either side of the border. And my dad's a regular at like a bunch of places. So we'll like sit down and he'll just like chat the waiter's ear off. Like, this is my son. This is the guy who works for ESPN.
This is the star.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was fantastic.
Como buen padre. Now, you mentioned it wasn't really that hard to fit in Mexico City. Now, at least job-wise and what you do. But personally, leaving a city where you were most of the time and coming to a city like Mexico City and maybe different people or different things, did it cost you a bit or did you fit right in also in that aspect as well?
When you're 25 and you're moving to like the big city, I don't care what city it is, like you could be moving to Miami or again, like LA, New York City, whatever. And you're leaving home and you're a young Latino kid, you're a young Mexican kid. It's like, because, traditionally in the US, like let's be real. Like white kids have that experience when they're 18 because they go off to college, like most of them, and they don't stay home, right? And after college, it's like very few of them go back home. Like they're on their way. I was 25 and I was living alone by that point, but I was still in my hometown, right? So it was like this whole new world had opened up for me. And parts of that world were like super exciting, super fun. But then there's this other side to things that's also like super challenging and scary. You don't know what the hell you're doing. Even though I had lived in Tijuana for a long time, like you don't know the way things work. Yeah. Obviously, as an adult, you don't know what's going on. You barely have your stuff together in San Diego or in TJ. Like I had no idea what I was doing in Mexico City. Those first few, I'd like to say months, but it's probably first few years. And the people are super different too, because I've spoken about this a bunch of times. It's like that old bit from the Selena movie, right? It's, lo voy a decir en español, pero es como que la verdad para los gringos siempre vas a ser mexicano. Y para los mexicanos siempre vas a ser gringo. Y eso siempre me ha pasado.
You're never from one,
middle, man.
Yeah.
You're never, yeah. So it's like the first few sort of first few U.S. Mexico games that I covered in Mexico City or whatever as a part of the media, like I had people coming up to me from the Mexican side saying, le vas a Estados Unidos, no, seguro, te crees gringo y esto y el otro, just kind of try to rib me.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, no, dude, I've always been a fan of the Mexican national team. And, but then, on the other side, you would always sort of have these comments that were sometimes over the line, sometimes not, about rooting for Mexico when you should be rooting for the other guys or an MLS team or whatever. So siempre fue difícil, siempre ha sido difícil eso, porque yo tengo la experiencia de que en la oficina puedo estar hablando por teléfono. I could be on a Zoom call, and it's just me and you, and we're talking right now, and I'll have people, like, even to this day, pop in like from around the door. Dame clases de inglés, canijo. No, man, no, este vato, habla súper bien. Also, there's like cultural barriers that seem, it's weird, right? I mean, we have that in the States too, like there are certain rivalries, if you will, from, people who, for instance, I mean, I have that being from California. Like I'll travel anywhere else in the US and they'll be like, your accent is like super Southern California. And they'll like try to do the Valley Girl thing on me.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, oh my God. Right. And, people have certain ideas and certain thoughts about California or Texas or, just the East Coast in general, whatever. That exists in Mexico too. Right. So when you're from the northern part of Mexico and you're in Mexico City, your accent throws people off. The way that you express yourself throws people off, and just sort of them knowing that you're not from there and you're living there and you're working there, that rubs some people the wrong way. Not everybody, obviously, but some people.
Yeah, you're already a target.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I asked that because I lived only 3 months, so nothing compared, not really much to say in those 3 months, but I got to see a glimpse of that. Coming from, I live in Houston right now, but I was born and raised in Rhode Island. In Houston, I have like maybe 12 years at most in Houston. So I lived in Mexico City for 3 months, but exactly what you said is exactly what I lived through. It's just in those 3 months.
Yeah, like, o sea, te escuchan hablar y es como, no, also, like, if you're obviously Mexican American, whatever, but you've got that Mexican as part of your hyphen, and you go up to people and they listen to you talk, and it's not sort of the way that they're used to hearing people talk. They're sort of kind of like cock their head back and be like, ¿De dónde eres? You know, that's the first question that everybody.
Tú no eres
asks.
mexicano.
Oh yeah, like that'll happen too. So
and then you come to USA and they're like, you're not American.
Oh, bro, like I've had so many experiences flying back to the States or crossing the border on foot in TJ and just having like freaking Border Patrol, Homeland Security, those customs agents looking at me and being like, the most innocuous question is, why haven't you been in the States for like, 4 months or whatever, or 3 months? It's like, I live in Mexico City. And, I'll have other types of comments lobbed at me that I'm not going to go into, but I think everybody can sort of have their own story or their own anecdote, right? So yeah, it's rough.
And now you see it smooth, now it rubs off, you just, right?
Lo que pasa es que después de un rato que ya tienes viviendo acá, es como todo lo demás, te acostumbras y también la gente se acostumbra, la gente que tú conoces se acostumbra a ti. So for me, it's like there are certain things that I'm never going to let go of as far as like the way that I was raised, things that I'm used to, things that I sort of think are right or wrong or whatever. But you develop a thick skin, you develop patience, and you also sort of understand that you're playing an away game, right? So, you can't sit there and sort of expect people to bend to your will. You have to do exactly the opposite. You have to sort of, mira, si estos güeyes están acostumbrados a hacer esto de esta manera y yo no, pues ni modo. Yo soy aquí la minoría, yo tengo que hacerlo como ellos lo hacen. Y está bien. Y cuando entiendes eso, it's fine. Like your life gets way easier.
Yeah. It's tough, but you have to move on through it. If you got a little bit of chance, I want to talk about the more importantly, the two games from yesterday. The USA game I didn't really see so much, but I know the Mexico game. I don't know if you were probably paying attention to both.
I had four screens going, man. I was watching every game. I mean, obviously, like the Jamaica, what was it, Jamaica Honduras or game was like on the smallest screen. I wasn't really paying attention to it, but the other three, yeah.
Now that you mentioned that, I had a question on that because I try to watch two games at the same time, and I can't. My attention is not on both. I gotta watch one. So how do you divide your attention between? Yesterday you said those four, right? So how do you do it?
you gotta keep sound on for like the one you want to pay attention to the most. So in my case, obviously it was the Mexico game.
Okay.
And then like for the US game, it was literally like I had one screen next to the other. So whenever I saw Costa Rica making an advance or the US making an advance, your eyes just kind of go to where the action is.
Yeah.
Right. So if I'm seeing like Keylor making a save or Costa Rica trying to score a goal off a set piece or whatever, I'm watching that. And if I'm keeping my eyes off the Mexico game, I know that, if I'm hearing, se acerca Mexico, or your eyes dart back to that game. The Canada game was on my phone, right? So it was like small screen, and I think I had Jamaica. I was joking about Jamaica Honduras because it was on my computer, but it was like basically minimized. I would just check in like every now and then to see what was going on because that game didn't really matter. But
they weren't really fighting anything. Yeah.
Yeah, but some crazy might happen, so you're always kind of looking out for that.
Yeah. So what are you? Obviously, the two most important ones were the USA game and the Mexico game. What were your takes on that?
I think it's really funny because the discussion right now on social media and on TV is mainly focused on you see sort of one team, which is the US, and their fans being completely overjoyed at the fact that they're back at the World Cup. They don't, obviously there are people criticizing Greg Berhalter There are people that are sort of looking at this golden generation of players and saying, man, I mean, they really underperformed considering all the talent that they have. But basically, you're just, overjoyed to be back at the World Cup because you haven't been there in 8 years.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the flip side, all of this criticism and all this negativity that has been festering around the Mexican national team for a long time, I stuck around y estaba viendo los programas de análisis después del partido y 5 segundos es, ok, México está en el Mundial, qué bien, no batallaron, ya no van a tener que pasar por lo que va a tener que pasar Costa Rica o lo que sucedió en el 2014 de ir al repechaje, bla, bla, bla. And then after that, it's
Me
just
dieron
like,
con todo.
yeah, no jugaron bien, falta gol.
¿A qué vamos?
¿A qué vamos? México no va a ser campeón del mundo, entonces, ¿qué es lo que va a pasar? Deberían de cambiar al Tata Martino, so all these different scenarios and all these negative takes and these negative points of view just sort of start to pop up. And I don't really understand all of that because in the end, I think Mexican fans and media have been spoiled by the fact that Mexico hasn't missed a World Cup in the last 28 years. The last time that they missed a World Cup due to purely sporting reasons was 40 years ago. Spain, 82.
82, yeah.
Right? Because, Mexico, 86, qualified because you're the host. 90 was Cachirules. Yep. And then after 94, it's just all the way through. All the way through. So ask Italy and their fans if they would sort of trade a qualifying campaign playing poorly but making the World Cup as opposed to maybe playing really well but missing the World Cup, right? It's a no-brainer. Ask the U.S. fans if they would have rather made the 2018 World Cup than sort of come back in 2022. You don't want to miss a World Cup. So for me, the ultimate goal is I don't care how you do it, just get to the World Cup. I don't care if you're in pot 4, if you're in pot 1, si eres cabeza de grupo, cabeza de serie, o si de verdad eres el último equipo en calificar. Eso es lo más importante. Because Mexico, just think about Brazil 2014. Mexico had the worst qualifying campaign that they've ever had and still made the World Cup.
Yeah.
Right? Empezaron con el Chepo, corren al Chepo, está ahí, creo, Tena un partido, luego llega Vucetich, Vucetich está 2 partidos y literal con el gol de Graham Suzy califican el repechaje, pero también, adiós. Uh-huh. Y llega el Piojo. Y el Piojo gana los partidos contra Nueva Zelanda, llegan al Mundial y la verdad es un muy buen Mundial. Es un muy buen Mundial. Think about going into that group. I think people were expecting, we're not getting out of the group because this was a really bad qualifying campaign. Ibas a jugar contra Brasil, ibas a jugar contra Croacia. And, Brazil couldn't beat you at home. They couldn't beat you at home. And then you've got Croatia. O sea, Modric en ese entonces que tenía 28, 27 años, estaba like peak of his powers, man. Mm-hmm. They had a really good team, and Mexico just kicked the crap out of them. 3-1 fue uno de los mejores partidos que he visto jugar a México en su historia. Y luego vas contra Holanda, Países Bajos, whatever, and you've got that game in the bag, and then, Piojo gives it away. But think about that World Cup and the qualifying campaign before it, and there's literally no relation. So for me, having a team that is struggling right now, even though they finished second only on goal difference, they had 28 points.
Yep.
They were really, really good outside of the Azteca. They dominated all the teams that they had to beat in order to get there. I don't really care that they lost against Canada, they lost against the United States. Like, that doesn't matter if you beat up on the rest of the region, which they did. And I'm looking at the World Cup. It's 7 months away?
Yeah.
You can get into form. A lot of things can change over the course of 7 months, they've got a really good opportunity to do that. And I think the U.S. does too. Like, they've got that same opportunity. If people don't like the way that Greg Berhalter is coaching the team, if, guys like Ricardo Pepi aren't scoring, Pulisic is a guy that can score a hat trick against a really bad team like Panama, the way that they ended that qualifying campaign, but also go up against Mexico at Azteca and choke away like the clearest chance of the game. He's not getting enough minutes at Chelsea. Like, Gio Reyna is obviously a really good player, but he needs to sort of grow into the role that the U.S. needs him to have. Weston McKennie's going to come back from injury. You're going to get a lot of players back from injury. Like, it's fine. You have 7 months to prepare this World Cup, and you still don't know. We'll know tomorrow.
Yeah.
Like, what group you're going to be in. But you can start preparing for those teams too, right? So, the U.S. and Mexico, like, they're both going to be fine. I have no idea what's going to happen with either team. I have no idea if they're going to get out of the group, if they're going to make a deep run or whatever. But just to be here is always something that you can't take for granted, right?
Yeah, I think it's too early to tell how they're going to do because it's a different tournament. You can't tell by a qualifying campaign exactly how you said it. They had in 2014 Mexico had by repechaje they had to qualify and look at their World Cup, and for the 2010 World Cup, Javier Aguirre had to come and save the qualifying. So you can't really tell by the qualifiers. Italy in 2010 and they were coming off from 2006 world champions.
Think about all the qualifying campaigns since 1994, and again, like you said, you're too young, obviously, to remember the 94 campaign. You were barely born by then. But, Abuelo Cruz le mete gol a Canadá en el último partido para calificar. Same deal. México le toca el grupo de la muerte. No habían calificado en el 90, obviamente, por el tema de los cachirules, y la gente pensaba que México no salía del grupo. Y México estuvo a nada de llegar a cuartos de final por los penales contra Bulgaria. Salen del grupo de la muerte. They play Bulgaria. That's, again, the best Bulgaria ever. Stoikov, Petrov, bunch of these players that, were playing in Serie A at the time, or La Liga, and they took them to the limit, man. Las únicas eliminatorias que México calificó tranquilamente en los últimos 28 años, estás hablando del 98, con Bora. And you know what they did to Bora after he qualified? They fired him. Yeah. Y los calificó caminando. 2006, La Volpe. Los calificó caminando. What happened at the World Cup? It was honestly a bad World Cup. Like, they played their hearts out against Argentina, but you should have beaten that Portuguese team. You can't draw 0-0 against Angola.
Angola, yeah.
Right? 2010, 2002 y 2010 Aguirre los tiene que salvar. 2014 los tiene que salvar Piojo. 2018, that's Osorio. Everybody hates the way that Osorio does things, but he preps really well for Germany and not at all for everybody else, right? So they beat Germany. That game was one of the best moments of my life, honestly, watching Mexico beat Germany at a World Cup. I mean, it's insane. I never thought that was going to happen. But then you go, okay, Korea, great, man, 2 out of 2. You get to that Sweden game, you're like, dude, you've been rotating for 50 games, and the one game you decide not to rotate is like literally the most important one in your career. And your team gets,
3-0.
3-0, right? They get beat up. They didn't have any chance against Brazil. So, the way that Mexico qualifies to these tournaments is by no means in sort of can't predict the way that they're going to play at the World Cup based on the qualifying campaign. So if they get a good group tomorrow, and man, I've been running that simulator like crazy. They get a good group tomorrow, then yeah, that's a blessing, but you also have to prepare for those games. You have to make sure that you learn from your mistakes in the past, right? Because to me, there's only been 3 chances over the last 28 years where Mexico has really had an opportunity to make it into the quarterfinals. 94, 98, and 2014, right?
Yeah.
Because every other time you came out there either completely unprepared, 2002 against the United States being the key example, overconfident, or you're overmatched. Like 2006 against Argentina, they played their hearts out, but they were overmatched. 2010, same deal. 2014, we talked about, that was a great opportunity. They messed it up, but that was a really good Dutch team. And then 2018, you had no chance. That was a really good Brazil team. And, the team was like gassed. Mexico was gone.
Yeah, I think everybody, and I think even Osorio said it when he went into the vestidor and he asked the players if they were ready for that game, and they were pretty much going with their heads down.
Yeah.
I think what's also going to help this World Cup is that tomorrow, all the coaches should have enough time to prepare for that World Cup because it's so soon.
Right.
I mean, because it's so far away. And usually in the other World Cups, they say it right now, and the World Cup's already in June. But now they have a lot of time.
Yeah. And it's sort of a different schedule in the sense that, you don't go from playing these European seasons or these club seasons all around the world right into the World Cup.
Take a break.
They're going to pause. Yeah, they're going to take a break. And also you have this summer break. So potentially you have the opportunity for your players to have more rest than they would in any other World Cup cycle. Not everybody, though, because we know Hector Herrera, all the guys that play in MLS, are going to, be playing through that break. But, the guys that play in Europe, the guys that play in Mexico, they're going to have hopefully they have the summer months off, most of that. And then, the break before the World Cup is going to kick in. So that way you hopefully avoid injuries and you have an opportunity for your body to sort of rest up. And, it's a situation in which when they do go back and play or they start the club seasons again in July and in August, they have a good solid 2-3 months. Guys like Raul at Wolves and all the players that Mexico has in Spain and elsewhere, they can start to play at a high level. They can start to get their minutes, but they do have that rest before the World Cup. So I think it's a very interesting sort of time to have a World Cup, and hopefully it works for Mexico for sure.
I hope it's looking like it's going to be one of the best World Cups. Do you see anybody right now that can take it as a clear winner, or do you see that está muy parejo para todos?
Está muy parejo para todos en el sentido de que hay muchos equipos muy sólidos, pero no hay ninguno que ahorita lo ves simplemente like the eye test or like the amount of stars that they could potentially have y dices, este es el favorito, claro, porque en mundiales anteriores sí hay, o sea, piensa cuando estabas creciendo, think about like Brazil in 1998, 2002, 2000, that run that they had, Ronaldo, first, before that it was Romario, pero Ronaldo, Roberto Carlos, luego Ronaldinho, Kaká,
Cafu,
yeah, man, I mean, that team was just packed. Ahora estamos más acostumbrados a que incluso los equipos europeos que no son tradicionalmente potencias como Bélgica, por ejemplo. Belgium is a really good team, and they hung on to that number one spot of the FIFA World Rankings for a long time. Like they have an amazing team, even without Hazard being at his best with Real Madrid. You look at teams in Europe that have had a lot of success lately. Like France are the defending world champions, and their core group of players is very young still. And now they have the experience of having actually won a World Cup. So they've got to be among the short list of, right. Pero ve Conmebol, ve Sudamérica, y hay 2 equipos que terminaron la eliminatoria sin perder un solo partido. And it's not that the rest of South America is bad, because honestly, it's not. You know, Chile no va a estar, Colombia no va a estar, a lo mejor Perú no está. Son equipos, those are not bad teams at all. Pero Brasil y Argentina, creo que ahora, like, they finally have the coaches that are able to get the most out of those teams. Scaloni creo que está haciendo un excelente
phenomenal job
en Argentina. Cuando yo, mira, ahorita traigo yo la playera de Bolivia, y cuando yo veo los partidos de Sudamérica, es increíble cómo puedes ver un partido de, no sé, Uruguay contra Perú, and man, that could be a barn burner. And those 2 teams look really good, and you're like, oh man, how are either of these teams not going to be at the World Cup or whatever? O Chile, Colombia, o lo que sea, son muy buenos partidos, el nivel es muy bueno. But then you see those same teams go up against Brazil, Argentina, and it's like those teams have extra gears, right? So right now, like, I would look at Brazil, Argentina, Francia. You know, I think Spain weirdly is a kind of a dark horse because people aren't really paying that much attention to them, but they're younger players that are going to be there are really exciting. And I also think that Belgium has been doing a really good job. So out of those 5 teams, like, I would really love for a new team that has not won the World Cup to be able to lift it. But that's going to be hard when you've got teams that have been there before being so strong, especially Brasil, Argentina, y Francia, right?
I think my number 1 contender, and after they won the Copa America, is Argentina, because of the phenomenal work that Scaloni has done. And I like, and just to finish it off, I like what he's doing, where he's calling the players that are in their best moment, no matter in what league they are in. And that's something that, at least watching Mexico, you wish El Tata Martino would do. At least that's what I criticize from him, because he hasn't really called up the players that in just stats have performed better than some of the players that he has called. But
think about how long it took for him to start Johan at center back. Arteaga, I know Arteaga was bad this last window, but Arteaga has been really, really good at his club for a long time, you know, and they're like even Liga MX guys and obviously MLS guys, Chicharito, an argument can be made there. He stuck to his guns for a long time with players that were not doing well at either club level or national team level. I mean, Gallardo played again last night. I have nothing against Gallardo. Like, when he was at Pumas, he was doing really well. He hasn't been. I mean, I haven't seen Gallardo do anything for Monterrey or for the national team for the last 8 or 9 months, and he's still getting call-ups. Chaca Rodriguez was the same deal. Long time. Funes Mori. Like, I understand Mexico doesn't have a lot of classic number 9s they could throw out there right now. But Funes Mori had a decent Gold Cup, and after that, he's been a ghost, right? And this is literally the first window where they didn't call him. So, you know, con Tata hay muchas cosas que puedes criticar y se deben de criticar, pero I don't know what people were expecting with Tata. Like, look at what he did with Paraguay.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That team was like that team was hard to watch, man. Those games were so boring. But he got them into a Copa America final. He got them into the quarterfinals. Like, what else can you? What else can you want, right?
That's how he plays. That's how his teams play. That's what happened with with Barcelona, and he was in the MLS, right? He was with Atlanta United.
Atlanta United.
A
couple of years, and he won MLS Cup before he came over to Mexico. But still, like, that was Barcelona didn't play spectacularly under him. Argentina didn't play spectacularly under him, and he was still able to get them to 2 different Copa America finals. And, you know, those finals go differently, and it's a different world for him because I think both of those were penalty kicks, right?
Yeah.
Messi missing at least in one of those two finals. Messi missed his
his
kick.
penalty.
But, he's made it to 3 Copa America finals, Paraguay and the 2 with Argentina. You're not getting a lot of people who have coached Barcelona even for one season that are going to be willing to take the Mexican national team job. And I feel like people in Mexico, or Mexico fans in general, feel like their team should be this sort of upper echelon team, or at least that's how they sort of expect them to play. When the reality is, you take advantage of the region you're in, and you make moves that help you get closer to your long-term objectives. Like, what is Mexico's top objective these last 3 decades? Just get to quinto partido, man. Make it to the quarterfinals. That's it. Like, nobody's asking you to win Copa America. You're not even in Copa America anymore. Nobody's asking you to make, I don't know, like top 5 in the FIFA rankings. Nobody's asking you to play and beat teams like Brazil, Argentina, France on a regular basis. Like, your bar is lower, significantly lower than a lot of these world powers. So what does that tell you? You're not a world power, and that's fine. But people out there are just on TV, on Twitter, just on the streets, seem to think that Mexico is this team that should be held to this high standard.
Yeah. No, it's a team that has talent, that has a lot to still progress, but it's a team that once they make a good World Cup and they probably win a World Cup, which will be years from now, I think once after that they can be held up to that.
I don't know, man. Mexico is the type of fan base that, the Mexican national team can win a World Cup and people would still find something to complain about.
Oh yeah.
So that's fine. But on the other hand, that's the environment that the Mexican national team has to play in. And you still saw, like, during this final window when people were going to the stadium and cheering Mexico on, it's really different than what you would expect from scrolling through Twitter, right? People on Twitter are angry. They want Tata fired yesterday. They want to go to the stadium and, yell, do the chant. They want Mexico to miss the World Cup for some reason. Like, I have no idea how you can call yourself a fan and want Mexico to miss the World Cup. And you see all these sort of really weird conspiracy theories floating around. Yeah. But you see people go to the stadium, man, they're having fun. They're enjoying themselves. They're cheering. I mean, for the first time in a long, long time, I heard Cielito Lindo at the stadium.
Yeah.
El Salvador. I heard Oles. So, I think what it all boils down to is just enjoy the game. Like, it's fine to criticize. It's fine to want something better for your team. And this goes for the U.S. fans as well, right? Like, you can want Berhalter to do a better job. You can want all of your players who are in Europe to kick it up a gear when they're with the national team or whatever. But just enjoy the moment, man. Like, World Cups, because Infantino lost his bid to have World Cups every 2 years now. So we're going to continue with this, 4-year format.
Yeah.
We don't know how many, like, I'm going to get philosophical with you, pero no sabemos cuántos mundiales nos quedan. Siquiera como aficionados, right?
Yeah.
Like, si Dios quiere, me quedan 10 más, 12 más, 15 más, pero a lo mejor es mi último. Entonces, en vez de estar enojado, en vez de estar preocupado, en vez de estar nada más echando mala onda, mala vibra a mi equipo, pues prefiero disfrutar. Because I think as soccer fans, and this goes back, like, all the way back to the first question that you asked me, there's no better feeling, whether you're at the stadium or you're at home watching the game on TV. There's literally no better feeling than when those players line up on the field and that national anthem starts playing. Like, man, there's nothing better. So why would you want to sour that? You know what I mean? It's insane.
Yeah. And I think that pretty much covers in all aspects of life. You know, so you can be going through a bad moment, you can be criticizing this, criticizing that, but relax, enjoy it. You know, yeah, you can criticize
Absolutely.
a player for not doing this, for messing up here, but after that, it's like, okay, it happens. All right, you know.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, Eric, I know it's been a while already. It's been an hour. Phenomenal conversation. And but just to finish off, al final hago una dinámica de preguntas with the guest.
Yeah.
So if you're ready, I'll go with the first one. It says, lugar que te gustaría visitar.
That's a good one. I'm gonna go with Ibiza right now.
Ibiza. Yeah. Equipo que te dejó impactado, and this can be in any sport.
Well, like the Jordan era Bulls, for instance, that's one. Y el ¿cómo se llama? La selección de Brasil del 94. Yeah.
Jugador favorito.
El gobernador de Morelos.
Cuauhtémoc. What do you like of Mexico?
The country or the
country,
team or
the country?
It's home, you know. It just, you know, it's this amazing, beautiful country that when you sort of grow up in this little corner of it, you don't really realize all the amazing stuff that's out there because, you know, Baja California is right tucked away on the northwest side of that country. And then, you know, you start going places and you realize just how beautiful that country is.
Yeah. What do you like of USA?
I think it's the same.
The same?
It's this it's an amazing, it's home for me. It feels like home for me as well. And it's this amazing, beautiful country that it is literally the pinnacle of civilization. You know, like there's no other place in the world like the United States because of just the amount of visionaries that it took to build that nation over the course of the last, 400 years. So,
yeah. ¿Qué significa tu familia para ti?
Todo. Mi familia es mi motor. Yo, si estamos hablando de mis papás, mis hermanos, mis seres queridos, o sea, hasta mi perro, ¿sabes? Todos aportan para que a la motivación que siento. Yeah.
How do you see yourself in 5 years?
On TV for ESPN, doing stuff in like this conversation, man, in both English and Spanish.
Criticando también, right?
No, I have. We didn't get into that, but I have other stuff that I want to do for sure. Put that film degree to good work, you know.
And then the last one would be, so I know it's far away from now, but it's how would you like to be remembered?
That's a good one. I would like to be remembered as somebody who just gave absolutely everything, not just for his family and, you know, for his country or for his industry or for his coworkers, but somebody who just, I would like to be remembered as somebody who fulfilled his dreams and hopefully left something behind for future generations to aspire to and to benefit from. Because it's one thing to, you know, be a role model for somebody, but it's a completely different thing for somebody to continue to sort of reap the benefits of what you were able to sow. So like, I want to invest in education and I want to invest in youth, hopefully as I move along in life. And, you know, if I'm able to set up scholarship funds or schools or whatever for people to be able to reach their dreams. Like that's how I would like to be remembered, for sure.
Dejarle algo a la humanidad, ¿no? Yeah. All right, Eric. Well, it was a phenomenal conversation. You had a lot to talk about, and your story was really good as well. So thank you for being on the show.
No, Luis, muchas gracias. Thank you so much, man.
All right. Well, I'll see you guys next time, and thank you, Eric.
Thank you, man.